Okay, so this idea of bisecting a segment. Bisecting a segment is the midpoint that bisects half the segment into two congruent segments. So the idea of midpoint is one of our key vocab words, so I'm going to highlight that. And the word bisects, right, cuts it in exactly into half. So those are our two key vocab words. And I'll give you a picture. We just did it with a piece of paper, but I'll show you again. So if I have a line segment here. What's the word under midpoint?
Yeah.
Segment. So if I have a line segment, and I'll call it AB, right? Okay. What we did was we folded that piece of paper over, and we found the midpoint. So I'll label that over here. Mine would be, I'm guessing it'd be about there for midpoint, right? So the midpoint, right here. Whoa, that's not right. So the midpoint, here's that word. And what it does is it bisects the two parts from A to M and from B to M and makes them congruent. So now we can say, if we know that M is the midpoint, we can say that AM segment is congruent to BM segment because we know that M is in the midpoint. And the way we represent congruent is with these tiny little hash marks here. So this little symbol here again means congruent. Alright, is that a pretty straightforward idea? The idea of bisecting something, cutting it in half, and making two equal parts. Is that pretty straightforward for you?
Yeah.
Alright, great. Bisecting a segment, cuts it in half, two congruent parts. Okay, let's talk about this idea of the midpoint formula. So, on, I think it was it Tuesday? We talked about the distance formula, right?
Yeah.
The distance formula computes a full-on distance and it gives you a number, right? The midpoint formula gives you a location on the xy plane. So this gives you a location on the xy coordinate plane. So I'm going to draw a coordinate plane right now. So here's my coordinate plane. Okay, here's my x and here's my y. Are you okay? Alright, so anywhere on your coordinate plane, give yourself a point and we'll call that point A. Okay? So anywhere on the coordinate plane, call that point A. Then somewhere else in the coordinate plane, give yourself another point, and I'm going to call that point B. So if I have any 2 points somewhere in my coordinate plane, which is the XY coordinate plane, okay, do your best to draw a segment between A and B. Huh? Oh, you still have rulers. Yeah, great. Use the rulers. Absolutely. All right, now we can label point A a little bit more specifically. So I'll label it as x1 and y1, and I'll label B as x2 and y2. So far, what does this look like? It looks like what? It looks like the distance formula, right? So it's really close to that. But we're developing the midpoint formula, okay? So the midpoint formula gives you a location, so I think my midpoint is somewhere around there, right? But is there a way to figure out exactly where it is just using the generic points? And of course there is. So the formula says this, right? The midpoint, so I'll say M, it's a big giant location. So it's an X and then a Y, okay? And to figure out the location of the midpoint, all you do is you add the X's together. So I say X sub 2 plus X sub 1 and divide by 2. So you basically take the average of the X values, and then you take the average of the Y values. So Y sub 2 plus Y sub 1 all divided by 2. And that is super important, so I'll put a little cloud around it so make sure you remember that. So all we do is we add the X parts together, divide by 2. We add the Y parts together, we divide by 2. And that spot happens to be the location of the midpoint. Alright? There's the midpoint formula. Add the X's together, divide by 2. Add the Y's together, divide by 2. Wherever you're at, that is the midpoint. Do you have any questions before I show you an example on how to use it? No? You guys feeling pretty good about a midpoint formula? Yeah? Alright. One last idea here. So here's an example. Alright, let's do it together here. Whatever it says on the board up there. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go 2 units each one to make it look pretty uniform here as best I can. That's not 2 units. There we go. So set up a grid, an XY grid as best as you can, and try and make it as uniform as you can so we can really find the location. So here is the X and here is the Y. Okay, let's put point A over here. I'll put point A at -5, 2. So put A right there. Call that A at -5, 2. -5, 2. Alright, let's put B at over here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, -1. So here's point B, and it's at 6, -1. Alright, and then connect A to B. Alright, is everybody on board so far? Alright, take your pencil and circle where you think the midpoint is, right? It's somewhere on this page, so I'm going to say my midpoint is somewhere about there. That's my guess. Would you say that's a pretty safe guess, that my midpoint? I would say that's my guess. I would say that's pretty close to the guess, right? Would you say it's in there somewhere? Do you think it's inside my circle somewhere? Yeah. Alright, great. Alright, let's find it for real now. Let's find it for real. So the midpoint of line segment AB is located at, remember, it is a location, so it's going to be x2 plus x1 divided by 2, y2 plus y1 divided by 2. Okay, let's see here. Add the x's together. Well, the x's are, the first one is -5 and 6. So how much is -5 plus 6?
1.
That's 1, right? Okay. And then 1 divided by 2 is a half. So at 1/2. Then let's add the y's together. So I have 2 and I have -1. How much is 2 plus -1? 1. And then divided by 2 is 1/2. Oh. So 1/2, 1/2. Let's see here. Let's go back up to my graph and see. If I go over a half and then up a half, right exactly right about there. Does that look like the midpoint to you?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that is exactly the midpoint. And the importance of the midpoint is that it cuts the segment AB exactly in half. So what that means is that from here, from A to the midpoint, from the midpoint to B, it makes each of those segments congruent. So now we can say that AM is congruent to section BM. All right. What do you think about that, everybody? Feel pretty good? Is that easy, medium, or hard? What do you think? Very easy. Okay. Okay. Very good. So, I have changed the homework for tonight. It was going to be 17 to 30, but we did a volume class today. So I want you to do 17 to 29, only the odds. Okay. So please make sure you write that down. 17 to 29, only the odds. Okay. Also, we had 2 lessons today, so there should be 2 summaries in your notes. Okay, a summary for section 1.4 and a summary for section 1.5. Okay, if you have my rulers, please put my rulers back. Thanks. Do you have an issue? What's the issue? Okay. What class were you in last year? Does this look familiar? I mean, do you remember it? But I mean, like seeing it, hearing the word, the visual format.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Are you fresh right now? Are you lost? We're good until now?
Yeah, because I don't know how you guys have.
Oh, that's just in the formula.
Yes, I understand it.
Oh, no. See, look over here. See the formula?
Yeah.
It's just given to you in the formula.
Oh.
Yeah, this 2 right here, yeah, that's just part of the deal. It's in the formula.
Got it.
So, whatever number you get from this, divided by 2. That's what I did. See, look here. Over here, right? I added the x's together, so I added -5 and 6, which is 1, and then I divided by 2.
Oh.
And that's it. It's just part of the formula.
Got it.
And then I did the same thing with the y's, right? I added the y value, which was 2, plus -1, which is 1, and then I divided by 2, so it got me a half.
I thought it was just you're doing that.
Nope. But I'm glad you said something. You got it now? Y'all straight away?
Yeah, I got it.
All right, perfect.
1 minute 30.
All right. Anybody have ruler 35? Someone still have that one? How about ruler number 5? Still have that one? Okay. And then how about 19? You got 19? Thank you very much. Okay, you feel like you guys did a lot today? Learned a lot today? Yeah?
Yes.
Remember, there are 2 summaries that need to be in your notes from 1.4 and from 1.5, okay? You need to write those down.
You're going to say,
You did? I actually didn't even know that. Why? She gets mad how we call her. She's like, she was fake. Why? Were you good though? Were you good though? Oh,
Hey, dude. Oh, yeah. No texting in class. Okay? Next time, after school. Yeah, absolutely.